Good morning. I wanted to say YouTube Nation. YouTube Nation is out there, but Facebook family, um, insert affectionate yet appropriate names for the Mixer and the Twitch community. This is your unified stream. Everything that mocap can connect to, Zephaniah Comics now has a presence on. Um, we will be doing DC Universe online. Um, Probably will continue to be showcasing some settlements on occasion as well. And had requests to begin reading chapters, books of the Bible, so that is upcoming. Um, I am contemplating reading classic literature like Jane Eyre. So that's the other things that will be happening with this channel, and might also have some special projects coming in the future as well. But for today, or for right now, we're seeing what adventures Pilgrim can find himself in, or Christian can find himself in. This town of fair speech, said Christian, I have heard of, and, as I remember, they say it is a wealthy place. Yes, I will assure you that it is, and I have very many rich kindred there. Pray, who are your kindred there, if a man may be so bold? Almost the whole town, and in particular my Lord Turnabout, my Lord Timeserver, my Lord Fair Speech, from whose ancestors that town first took its name, also Mr. Smoothman, Mr. Facing Both Ways, Mr. Anything, and the parson of our parish, Mr. Two Tongues, was my mother's own brother by father's side. And to tell you the truth, I am become a gentleman of good quality, yet my great-grandfather was but a waterman, looking one way and rowing another. And I got most of my estate by the same occupation. Are you a married man? Yes. And my wife is a very virtuous woman, the daughter of a virtuous woman. She was my Lady Faning's daughter. Therefore she came of a very honorable family, and is arrived to such a pitch of breeding that she knows how to carry it all, even to prince and peasant. It is true we somewhat differ in religion from those of the stricter sorts, yet but in two small points. First, we never strive against wind and tide. Secondly, we are always most zealous when religion goes in his silver slippers. We love much to walk with him in the street, if the sun shines and the people applaud him. Then Christian stepped a little aside to his fellow hopeful, saying, It runs in my mind that this is one Bunyan's of fair speech. And if it be he, we have as very a knave in our company as dwelleth in all these parts. Then said Hopeful, Ax him. Methinks he should not be ashamed of his name. So Christian came up with him again and said, Sir, you talk as if you knew something more than all the world doth. And if I take not my mark amiss, I deem I have half a guess of you. Is not your name Mr. Byans of fair speech? This is not my name, but indeed it is a nickname that is giving me by some that cannot abide me. I must be content to bear it as a reproach, as other good men have borne theirs before me. But did you never give an occasion to men to call you by this name? Pshaw! Never, never. The worst that ever I did to give them an occasion to give me this name was that I had always the luck to jump in my judgment with the present way of the times, whatever it was, and my chance was to get thereby. But if things are thus cast upon me, let me count them a blessing. But let not the malicious load me therefore with reproach. I thought, indeed, that you were the man that I heard of, and to tell you what I think, I fear this name belongs to more properly than you are willing we should think it doth. Well, if you will thus imagine, I cannot help it. You shall find me a fair company keeper if you will still admit me your associate. If you will go with us, you must go against wind and tide, the which I perceive is against your opinion. You must also own religion in his rags, as well as when in his silver slippers, and stand by him too when bound in irons, as well as when he walketh the streets with applause. You must not oppose, no lord it over my faith. Leave me to my liberty, and let me go with you. Not a step further, unless you will do in what I propound as we. Then said Byans, I shall never desert my old principles, since they are harmless and profitable. If I may not go with you, I must do as I did before you overtook me, even go by myself, until some overtake me that will be glad of my company. Now I saw in my dream that Christian and Hopeful forsook him, and kept their distance before him. But one of them looking back saw 3 men following Mr. Byans, and behold, as they came up with him, he made them a very long conge, and they also gave him a compliment. The men's names were Mr. Hold the World, Mr. Moneylove, Mr. Save All, men that Mr. Byans had formerly been acquainted with, for in their minority there were schoolfellows, and were taught by one Mr. Grightman, a schoolmaster in Love Again, which is a master town in the country of Coveting in the north. This schoolmaster taught them the art of getting, either by violence, cozenage, flattery, lying, or by putting on the guise of religion. And these 4 gentlemen had attained much of the art of their master, so that they could each of them have kept such a school themselves. Well, when they had, as I said, thus saluted each other, Mr. Moneylove said to Mr. Byans, Who are they upon the road before us? For Christian and Hopeful were yet within view. There are a couple of far countrymen that, after their mode, are going on pilgrimage. Alas, why did they not stay, that we might have had their good company? For they and we and you, sir, I hope, are all going on pilgrimage. We are so indeed, but the men before us are so rigid, and love so much their own notions, and do also so lightly esteem the opinions of others, that let a man never so godly, yet if he jumps not with them in all things, they thrust him quite out of their company. That is bad. But we read of some that are righteous overmuch, and such men's rigidness prevails with them to judge and condemn all but themselves. But I pray what, and how many, were the things wherein you differed? Why, they, after their headstrong manner, conclude that it is duty to rush on their journey all weathers, and I am for waiting for wind and tide. They are for hazarding all for God at a clap, and I for taking all advantage to secure my life and estate. They are for holding their notions, though all other men are against them, but I am for religion and what, and so far as the times and my safety will bear it. They are for religion when in rags and contempt, but I am for him when he walks in his golden slippers and the sunshine and with applause. Aye, and hold you there still, good Mr. Byans, for my part, I can count him but a fool that, having the liberty to keep what he has, shall be so unwise as to lose it. Let us be wise as serpents. It is best to make hay when the sun shines. You see how the bee lieth still all winter, and bestirs her only when she can have profit with pleasure? God sends sometimes rain, and sometimes sunshine. If they be such fools to go through the first, yet let us be content to take fair weather along with us. For my part, I like the religion best that will stand with the security of God's good blessings unto us, for who can imagine that is ruled by his reason, since God has bestowed upon us the good things of this life, but that he would have us keep them for his sake. Abraham and Solomon grew rich in religion, and Job says that a good man shall lay up gold as dust, but he must not be such as the men before us, if they be as you have described them. I think that we are all agreed in this matter, and therefore there needs no more words about it. No, there needs no more words about this matter. Indeed, for he that believeth neither scripture nor reason And you see, we have both on our side. Neither knows his own liberty, nor seeks his own safety. My brethren, we are, as you see, going all on pilgrimage, and for our better diversion from things that are bad, give me leave to propound to you this question. Suppose a man, a minister, or a tradesman in company should have an advantage lie before him, to get the good blessing of this life, yet so as that he can by no means come by them except, in appearance at least, he becomes extraordinarily zealous in some points of religion that he meddled not with before. May he not use these means to attain his ends, and yet be a right honest man? I see the bottom of your question, and with these gentlemen's good leave, I will endeavor to shape you an answer. And first, to speak to your question as it concerns a minister himself. Suppose a minister, a worthy man, possessed but of a very small benefice, and has in his eye a greater, more fat and plump by far, he also now an opportunity of getting of it. Yet so as by being more studious, by preaching more frequently and zealously, and because the temper of the people requires it, by altering. Okay, just give me 1 second. I just need to respond to a message. Um, all right. Of some of his principles from our part, I see no reason but a man may do this, provided he has a call, I and more a great deal besides, and yet be an honest man. For why? Number one, his desire of a greater benefice is lawful. This cannot be contradicted, since it is set before him by providence, so then he may get it, if he can, making no question for conscience' sake. Besides, his desire after that benefice makes him more studious, a more zealous preacher, and so makes him a better man. Yea, makes him better, improve his parts, which is according to the mind of God. Now, as for his complying with the temper of his people by descending to serve them some of his principles, this argueth that he is of a self-denying temper, or of a sweet and winning deportment, and so more to fit for the ministerial function. I conclude then that a minister that changes a small for a great should not for so doing be judged as covetousness, but rather, since he has improved in his parts and industry, thereby be counted as one that pursues his call, and the opportunity put into his hands to do good. And now to the second part of the question, which concerns the tradesmen you mentioned. Suppose such a one to have but a poor employ in the world, but by becoming religious he may mend his market, perhaps get a rich wife, or more and far better customers to his shop. For my part, I see no reason but that this may be lawfully done. For why? To become religious is a virtue, by what means they soever a man becomes so. 2, nor is it unlawful to get a rich wife, or more accustomed to my shop. 3, besides, the man that gets these by becoming religious gets that which is good of them that are good by becoming good himself. So then here is a good wife, and good customers, and good gained, and all these by becoming religious, which is good. Therefore, to become religious, to get all these, is a good and profitable design. This answer, thus made by this Mr. Moneylove and to Mr. Bunyan's question, was highly applauded by them all. Wherefore they concluded upon the whole that it was most wholesome and advantageous. And because, as they thought, no man was able to contradict it, and because Christian and Hopeful were yet within call, they jointly agreed to assault them with the question as soon as they overtook them, and the rather because they had opposed Mr. Byans before. So they called after them, and they stopped and stood still till they came up to them. But they concluded as they went that not Mr. Byans, but old Mr. Hold the World should propound the question to them, because, as they supposed, their answer to him would be without the remainder of that heat that was kindled betwixt Mr. Byans and them at their parting a little before. So they came up to each other, and after a short salutation, Mr. Hold the World propounded the question to Christian and his fellow, and bid them to answer it if they could. Then said Christian, even a babe in religion may answer 10,000 such questions. For if it be unlawful to follow Christ for loaves, as it is in the 6th of John, how much more abominable is it to make of him in religion a stalking horse to get and enjoy the world? Nor do we find any other than heathens, hypocrites, devils, and witches that are of this opinion. Heathens, for when Hamor and Shechem had a mind to the daughter and cattle of Jacob, and saw that there was no way for them to come at them but by becoming circumcised, they say to their companions, if every male of us be circumcised, as they are circumcised, shall not their cattle and their substance and every beast of theirs be ours? Their daughter and their cattle were that which they sought to obtain, and their religion, the stalking house they make use of to come at them. You could read the whole story in Genesis 34:20 to 23. 2. The hypocritical Pharisees were also of this religion. Long prayers with their pretense, but to get widows' houses with their intent, and greater damnation was from God their judgment. Luke 20:46 and 47. Judas, number 3. Judas the devil was also of this religion. He was religious for the bag, that he might be possessed of what was therein. But he was lost, cast away, and the very son of perdition. Number 4. Simon the witch was of this religion too, for he would have had the Holy Ghost, that he might have got money therewith, and his sentence from Peter's mouth was according. Acts 8:19 to 22. 5. Neither will it out of my mind, but that man that takes up religion for the world will throw away religion for the world. For so surely as Judas resigned the world in becoming religious, so surely did he also sell religion and his master for the same. To answer the question, therefore, affirmatively, as I perceive you have done, and to accept of, as authentic, such answer is both heathenish, hypocritical, and devilish, and your reward will be according to your works. Then they stood staring one upon another, but had not wherewith to answer Christian. Hopeful also approved of the soundness of Christian's answer, so there was a great silence among them. Mr. Byans and his company also staggered and kept behind, that Christian and Hopeful might outgo them. Then said Christian to his fellow, if these men cannot stand before the sentence of man, what will they do with the sentence of God? And if they are mute when dealt with by vessels of clay, what will they do when they shall be rebuked by the flames of a devouring fire? Then Christian and Hopeful outwent them again, and went till they came to a delicate plain called Ease, where they went with much content, but that plain was but narrow, so they were quickly got over it. Now at the further side of that plain was a little hill called Lucre, and that hill is Silver Mine, which some of it them that had formerly gone that way, because of the rarity of it, had turned aside to thee. But going too near the brink of the pit, the ground being deceitful under them, broke, and they were slain. Some also have been maimed there, and could not to their dying day be their own men again. Then I saw in my dream that a little off the road, over against the silver mine, stood Damas, to call to passioners to come and see, who said to Christian and his fellow, Ho, turn aside hither, and I will show you a thing. What thing so deserving as to turn out of the way to see it? Here is a silver mine, and some digging in it for treasure. If you will come, with a little pains you may richly provide for yourselves. Then said Hopeful, let us go see. Not I, said Christian. I have heard of this place before now, and how many have there been slain, and besides that, treasure is a snare to those that seek it, for it hindereth them in their pilgrimage. Then Christian called to Damas, saying, Is not this place dangerous? Hath it not hindered many in their pilgrimage? Hosea 14 and 8. No, not very dangerous, except to those that are careless, but withal he blushed as he spoke. Then said Christian to Hopeful, Let us not stir a step, but still keep on our way. I will warrant you, when Byans comes up, if he hath the same invitation as we, he will turn in thither to see. No doubt thereof, for his principles lead him that way, and 100 to 1, but he dies there. Then Damas called again, saying, But will you not come over and see? Then Christian roundly answered, saying, Damas, thou art an enemy to the right ways of the Lord of this way, and hast been already condemned for thine own turning aside, by one of his majesty's judge, 2 Timothy 4 and 10. And while seekest thou to bring us into thy like condemnation? Besides, if we at all turn aside, our Lord and King will certainly hear thereof, and will there put us to shame, where we would stand with boldness before him. Damas cried again, then he also was one of their fraternity, and that if they would tarry a little, he also himself would walk with them. Then said Christian, What is thy name? Is it not the same by the which I have called thee? Yes, my name is Damas. I am the son of Abraham. I know you. Gehazi was your great-grandfather, and Judas your father, and you have trod in their steps. 2 Kings 5 and 20, Matthew 26, 14 and 15, 27 and 1 and 5. It is but a devilish prank that thou usest. Thy father was hanged for a traitor, and thou deservest no better reward. Assure thyself that when we come to the king, we will do his word of this thy behavior. Thus they went their way. By this time, Byans and his companions were come again within sight, and they at the first beck went over to Damas. Now whether they fell into the pit by looking over the brink thereof, or whether they went down to dig, or whether they were smothered in the bottom by the damps that commonly arise, of these things I am not certain. But this I observed, that they never were seen again in the way. Then sang Christian, Byans and Silver Damas both agree. One calls, the other runs, that he may be a sharer in his lucre. So these do take up in this world and no farther go. Okay. This is an abbreviated stream. Thank you so much for watching. Be well, be safe, be the best you that you can be.